We're going to be talking about gentrification today. A very hot topic in the Bay Area, a very hot topic in Los Angeles, very hot topic across all the major metropolitan areas in the United States. So CAREB, the California Association of Real Estate Brokers, will attempt to tackle this very, very, very difficult topic, and we'll attempt to do so in a positive, productive manner. So I'm excited about this webinar. I'm excited about what we're going to learn today and what we're going to inspire, hopefully, within our communities across the state of California. So this should be a good meeting. I'm really, really excited about it. I'm excited about 2017 and our Realtist membership. Explain to you in a few more minutes what being a Realtist means and what the definition of what that means and what that actually means to community members that are hoping to avoid displacement and build wealth in the process. And it's about 12:02 right now. We're going to wait a few more minutes before we dive into the topic. About 12:05. I'm going to wait till I see a few more attendees hop on this call. This first ever inaugural CAREB webinar. So we're excited. I see a few people have logged in so far. I'm going to let the time pass a little bit more before we get going. And all right, I see we've got a few people on right now. Thank you guys for logging on. I really appreciate it. This is pretty cool. I know the rest of the world has been pretty up on these webinars, but this is our first one. This is the first CAREB webinar. And I want to say this, anytime you do something for the first time, I'm sure there's going to be some kinks. I'm sure there's going to be some, maybe not as fluid as it should be moments. But that's why you do something on the first time. You got to start somewhere. And that's what we're doing here today. The second or third webinar that we do will be really, really smooth. So I just wanted to make sure to make that disclosure up front and explain to everybody what we're doing and how we're going to be doing it. So we've got an hour here on this webinar. I'm going to talk for about 45 minutes. And then I'm going to open it up for questions. There is a chat option when you log in that you should be able to, and I see several of the attendees have chimed in already. So try to hold your questions if you can to the end, although you can chat your question in and I'll see it. I'll get to the questions towards the end of the presentation. And I'm going to leave at least 10 to 15 minutes to try to address all the questions, comments, responses. So thank you all very much. It's 12:04 right now. I'm going to wait to 12:05, then I'll do my brief introduction and dive right into this topic that I'm very, very excited about. And by the way, I'm doing this webinar live from my office, which is at the heart of downtown Oakland. And we are in probably one of the fastest gentrifying neighborhoods in Oakland, if not one of the fastest, definitely top 2 or 3. So as I'm doing this presentation with you guys, this is not a theoretical conversation. This is not a hypothetical or philosophical conversation. I'm going to deliver this to you guys based on real information from a street level, from what I'm seeing here in maybe the heart of a gentrifying area, where I'm running my business, where I own commercial property. So I want to just impart that to you all and let you know that this is pretty real for me and my neighborhood where I'm at right now doing this webinar. So looking down at the time now, it's 12:05. So we're gonna get going and dive into this. So For many of you on this webinar, you know me. Many of you do not know me. My name is Steve Peterson, and I'm the president of the California Association of Real Estate Brokers, which is the state board of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. So in our state, we're called CAREB, and for the national, it's called NAREB. And so what it means to be a member of CAREB and NAREB and the associated local boards are the city boards that represent our local areas, such as the Associated Real Property Brokers here in Oakland, the Consolidated Board of Realtors down in Los Angeles. Those are the local boards that make up the state board and that make up the national board as a whole. And when you join one of these boards, you become what's called a realtist, as opposed to a realtor. And so just to give you a brief history on what it means to be a realtist is that in 1947, 12 brave souls, 11 men and one woman formed the National Association of Real Estate Brokers because African Americans were not allowed to join the National Association of Realtors at that time. Thus, were not allowed to be called realtors. So in 1947, NAREB was formed and the designation realtist was born. So when you're a member of one of our local boards, and in California, that makes you a member automatically of our state board. And then of course of our national organization, that makes you a realtist. So I want to make sure that everybody understands what a realtist is, because many people have not heard of it. Obviously members of our organization will, but for you all that are not members and have not maybe heard of that term before, that's what it means to be a realtist. And at the Realtors organization, we stand for democracy in housing. So this topic of gentrification is a very, very important topic for us to discuss. It's a very hotly debated topic from many sides. And so what we're going to do here today is just look at some hard facts and information, and then give some action steps that people can take in order to avoid displacement and build wealth in the process. That's the title of this webinar, Gentrification, How to Avoid Displacement and Build Wealth in the Process, which is very, very important as it relates to our national goal, which we have a goal, an initiative now set. It's called 2 and 5. We're seeking to generate 2 million additional Black homeowners in 5 years. And that clock started last year in 2016. So by 2021, our national goal is to have 2 million additional Black homeowners. And we're going to accomplish that through advocacy, activism, and action surrounding all housing issues that pertain particularly to the Black community. So that's how we're going to accomplish that goal. And it's through educational webinars like this, physical meetings that we'll be having in the community, educating people on how to buy properties for their personal residence, also how to buy investment properties, how to begin to build wealth. And so that's why this seminar is so critically important, because it ties into our national goals of 2 million and 5, and our value system of democracy in housing. So with that being said, I'm going to pop out and I'm going to go full screen with the presentation. Okay, because y'all don't need to see me. You want to see the presentation. So I'm going to now go full screen into the presentation. Give me 1 minute. All right. Now you all should be able to see not my face anymore, just the presentation screen. So the first thing I like to do is to define what gentrification actually means. Now, being that this is a hotly debated topic here in the Bay Area, I hear conversations about this probably every other day, literally. And I could tell you, none of the people who talk about this topic really have a clear understanding of what it actually means. If we're going to actually have an impact on anything that it is that we're doing in business and life in general, we have to be able to operate with clear understanding, knowledge, and wisdom. So let's dive into what the actual definition of gentrification is. And I'm going to start first with the Webster's definition, Merriam-Webster's definition, and then I'm going to go into the Wikipedia definition. Two kind of different definitions, but essentially saying the same thing. So the definition of gentrification, according to Webster's, is the process of renewal and rebuilding accompanying the influx of middle class or affluent people into deteriorating areas that often displaces poorer residents. And that's according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Now, let's dive into Wikipedia. The Wikipedia definition of gentrification is the buying and renovating of houses and stores in deteriorated urban neighborhoods by wealthier individuals, which in effect improves property values, but can also displace low-income families and small businesses. This is a common and widespread controversial topic, and in terms of urban planning, it refers to shifts in an urban community lifestyle and an increasing share of wealthier residents and or businesses and increasing property values. Now that's according to Wikipedia. So now we've looked at two actual definitions of the word gentrification. So we have to, when we're talking about this, or we're having a dialogue about this, or, you know, there's so many hotly, there's so many passionate emotions around this that it helps to be able to deal with clear understanding. So when we look at both definitions, the thing that is similar is the process of renewal and rebuilding or renovating, redevelopment, if you will. The second thing that also is consistent in both definitions is where this, redevelopment, renewal, renovation is happening. It's in the urban areas, urban neighborhoods. And so right now, that's a factor of a shift in population. Across the country in the United States, the populations are moving into the urban core areas. Urban core areas are the central primarily the central business districts of any city. These mainly are going to be your downtown areas and areas that are very close to downtowns. These areas are becoming popular for a variety of reasons. And here's the deal. Having seen this firsthand here downtown Oakland, where I'm sitting at right now on 24th and Telegraph, a few years ago, nobody wanted this real estate. This was a ghost town in 2008 and 2009. Nobody wanted to be here. But because it's centrally located, it's in the middle of the Bay Area, and often, as we speak in Oakland terms, this is easier to get to downtown Oakland from San Francisco than it is to many places or neighborhoods in San Francisco. So if you live in San Francisco, a lot of times it's easier for you to get to downtown Oakland than it is to get to certain neighborhoods in San Francisco. And that's because of the public transit situation here in Oakland. We have a lot of public transit options. So the renovation of properties in these urban areas, the next thing to look at is really who's doing it. When this renovation, this renewal happens, when we're talking about gentrification, it's really looking at these things being done by wealthier residents. And the effect of that is that people who are not necessarily in that class of income or assets end up getting the short end of the stick. So that doesn't necessarily have to happen to everyone. And that's the point I want to make. It doesn't have to happen to everyone. There are options. But let's dive into a little bit as to why this happens. Why does all of a sudden an area where, 10, 15 years ago, nobody wanted this real estate, nobody wanted to be a part of it, why is this area now popular? And I just kind of talked about it because we're having a shift of the population across the United States. It's not just here, the Bay Area, it's not just in Los Angeles, it's everywhere. I just was speaking with someone yesterday from Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is completely different than it used to be 10, 15 years ago. Now it's desirable. So why does that happen? Why, well, a couple of reasons. First of all, employers are clustering into major urban areas across the country, and employees want to be close to where they work. That's just the way things are right now. People want to be close to where they work. People want to, eat close to where they live. People are not really, as in general, as a major trend, people are not wanting to commute an hour or 2 hours. Now, we all know people who do it, an hour commute, 2 hours commute, especially down in Southern California, especially here in the Bay Area. There's a lot of people that commute. But as a trend, people are getting away from that. Folks that are making money at different jobs want to be close to their job. Also, employees more than ever are using mass transit systems. Like in the Bay Area, we have BART, Bay Area Rapid Transit. They're using these systems more than ever. And urban areas like downtown Oakland tend to have efficient transportation options, thus attracting these employees. And I was also down in LA last week and talking with my associates, and he was telling me about the new rail system that's getting ready to come in LA. And in many ways, that's going to be a real positive thing because, think about LA, you get on the freeway at the wrong time, it's a bad look. So these transit systems, though, make these areas that maybe were not popular before really popular, because people can get to them quickly on the BART, on the metro, on rapid bus lines. So, and these areas, also gentrifying areas, typically have cheaper real estate prices. Now, in the beginning stages, let me say that again, because as gentrification continues to move on, what used to be cheap gets expensive. It gets expensive real quick. We've seen that pretty aggressively here in Oakland. But what it represents large potential cash flows and profits for wealthy outside investors and developers. Here's the deal. If you can figure out as a community member or as a small business owner or as someone in these areas who's been living in these areas, how to acquire some of this real estate, especially at the beginning stage, you can profit and develop large cash flows and profits just like wealthy outside investors and developers. You can be that. That's part of what we're talking about here today. And what I'm trying to stress is that don't let it just be outside wealthy folks coming in. You can buy a home, you can buy an investment property in these areas, especially if you time it right. And last point on this is on the why it happens phase is, well, areas like Brooklyn, areas like Oakland, right? Areas like, in Los Angeles are going to be very close to very, very highly populated, very, very highly income and asset rich areas, such as in the Bay Area, downtown San Francisco. So in San Francisco, housing prices are outrageous. In San Francisco, everything that is associated to price or cost is outrageous. So people who have lived in San Francisco for quite some time are finding out that they can move into Oakland for half the price, still get to their job easily, and and live a more comfortable life. That's the same in Brooklyn. People living in Manhattan are finding out, hey, I can go over here to Brooklyn, live for half the price, take the subway over to Manhattan, and I'm good. So that's a trend. We need to understand that trend. And the economy now is more so about functionality. Sure, people still want to have a big house and a big yard, but people would rather be closer to their job and closer to where they make money. And in those areas, services, restaurants, and the like are coming. So it's very, very important that we understand what gentrification is and we understand why it happens. This is key. This is key. We cannot operate in a spirit of confusion. We must know what the issues are, why they happen, in order to do something about it, especially if we're going to do something positive and productive. And my whole message throughout this webinar is ownership. We as community members, we as real estate professionals, we as small business owners, and maybe corporate, members need to understand that we've got to take ownership. We've got to take ownership, first of all, of our situation, our housing situation, our income situation, whatever that might be. And then we've got to figure out how to put ourselves into an actual ownership position of properties, of businesses, and of organizations. These are ways that we can avoid getting displaced and also build wealth in the process. So now I'm going to kind of get into the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about here. And I'm going to move. Okay. Bear with me here. The slideshow is sticking. So just we'll get it to move to the next page. Okay, here we go. Avoiding displacement in gentrifying areas. Let's just talk about this for a minute because this is critical. Let me just give you an example. Oakland in year 2000 was, I think it was 49% African American. In the last census after 2010, we're about 22% African American. So we've lost half of our population, of our Black population in the city of Oakland. We're still the largest one single group of people in the city, but we've lost half of our population, which has a significant effect on our economic base and our political base. So let's talk about first avoiding displacement, not being pushed out to other areas. Well, and I'm going to address it first as a tenant, somebody renting, and then second as a homeowner. And let me just say this, as a tenant, you're the most vulnerable. Doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Don't mean you have to move out, but you're the most vulnerable. So you want to put together a plan, and then you want to figure out how to put yourself into a position of ownership. But let's just talk about as a tenant, what do I do? Gentrification is going on. You're getting nervous. You're getting scared. What can you do? First of all, when you're in a rental situation, you want to try to sign a lease that's as long term as possible. At least you want to get a 12-month lease. See if you can get a 2 to 3 year lease. Now, most landlords in California don't like to do that, especially in the rent controlled cities. I know like Oakland, Los Angeles, I believe Santa Monica, San Francisco, Berkeley, all have rent control. San Jose has rent control. So within rent control, one thing a lot of landlords do not like to give you a 2 or 3 year lease, but you can always ask for one. And anything in real estate, remember, is negotiable. Now, market conditions always affect the negotiation, but anything's negotiable. So try. And here's another thing. When you're a tenant, be diligent, be a diligent tenant in performing all your responsibilities, keep records of your rental payments, and understand your rights. And let me say this, because there are landlords out there. There are predatory lenders out there. There are forces out there that when gentrification starts happening, these people will seek to prey upon folks. So if you're a diligent tenant, you keep your rental payments, you understand your rights. If there's something wrong with the property and you need to address that with the landlord, instead of not paying rent totally, you put your rent in an escrow deposit, in an escrow account. That way, that you can show you're making your rental payments, and then you can resolve the dispute. This is important because when there are landlords that want to get you out of there, you got to have all your T's crossed and I's dotted. And if you can do that consistently, that actually will help you move towards home ownership. And what we've got to do as an organization, as the Realtors organization, we've got to equip and educate our tenant population into the transition of home ownership. It is a transition. It starts with a mindset, and then it starts with, being diligent, things like paying your rent on time, keeping records of your rental payments, paying your bills on time, and being a good neighbor. But also, when disputes arise, handling it the right way. Not simply not paying your landlord, but if you need to not pay, put your money in the escrow account so that you can document that, hey, I'm paying the rent. This landlord's not taking care of things. So be diligent as a tenant. Then understand that one way or another, you are vulnerable. So you need to put an immediate housing plan that will put you in some form of ownership, some form of an ownership position of some kind. If you want long-term sustainability in your neighborhood. If you don't care where you live, that's a different thing. But if you want to plant your feet in the sand and say, I'm not leaving here, then you've got to be a diligent tenant, and then you've got to put together a plan to get into an ownership. And that plan may take you 5 years, it may take you 10 years, it may take you 5 months, but put the plan together. It's critical you do that, and you can do it. People on Section 8 can do it. There's a Section 8 to home ownership program. There's all these things that tenants can do to begin equipping themselves for home ownership in the state of California, in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, in Oakland, in the more expensive areas. This can be done, and it's being done every day. So, just be aware of that. And the last point as a tenant, be aware of new housing developments with affordable rentals, low income rentals, and also below market rate units for sale. There in the Bay Area and Los Angeles, a lot of the developments that get built are affordable housing developments, which means that they were financed with some element of a tax credit. Though that financing helps the actual building to get constructed. In doing so, those buildings have to keep the rents at certain levels. Also, when they sell units, the sale price has to be with below market rate. These are great opportunities for people who are tenants who want to move into home ownership. However, you got to be on it. It's competitive. In San Francisco, there's several below market rate units available. The problem is there's not a lot of African-American applicants for those units. So as realtors, we have to move people into an application position to fight for those units. We cannot be complacent about this. So as a tenant, you got to know your rights. You got to be diligent, but understand that you're the most vulnerable. So put a plan in place. We can't simply protest our way out of this one. We need to keep people honest. We need to keep governments honest, corporations. But we got to take matters into our own hands. Take ownership is what I'm saying. That's the whole point. If there's one point in this webinar, take ownership, even as a tenant. So now moving on. As a homeowner, how do you avoid displacement? Several people who own homes have been displaced, and for a variety of different reasons. I'm going to take a couple of slants on this one. The first thing you need to do when you buy your home, either when you buy it you first acquire it or sometime during the time you own it, is put in place long-term financing and a long-term interest rate on your mortgage for at least 10 to 15 years, 30 years if you can afford it. A lot of times you get a 30-year a little bit more expensive on the rate, right? But lock it in, because by locking it in, what you're doing is you're fixing your housing costs for 30 years or 10 years or 15 years. So that mortgage you're paying right now when you first buy your home, it may seem like a lot of money. It may be seeming like it's busting you over the head. But in 15, 20 years from now, with inflation, it might not seem like nothing. See, as a homeowner, you got some benefits when gentrification comes in, because all these things going on around you may be improving your property value. But if you've locked in your mortgage, now you've got fixed housing costs for that period. So now you're benefiting. Here's another thing to think about as a homeowner in an expensive area. If you're making it paycheck to paycheck, or you're barely making it, one thing you might want to consider is developing additional streams of income. This is critical. And it's kind of the Uber movement, so to speak, right? People have a regular job or regular business and they drive an Uber on the side because, hey, situation and circumstance dictates it. If you live in Los Angeles, live in the Bay Area, average house price is 500-something thousand. In certain areas, rents for a 2-bedroom in East Oakland right now, 2,000, 2,200. So if you're a homeowner and you're tight, look at other ways of developing income. And here's just a couple of examples. Rental income, if you're able to go out and purchase some rental property. If you have some room in your house, a lot of people are doing Airbnb and actually making a lot of money. In San Francisco, Airbnb is killing. So it's the same thing in certain parts of LA. Mention Uber, so driving Uber, driving Lyft, direct sales, network marketing. I know a lot of people who are making $500,000 a month, several thousand a month extra doing that. Here's another one, more particular to the state of California, is the cannabis industry. It's a new industry. Cannabis has been legalized. There are a bunch of legal enterprises being established as the city and the state sets forth its regulation policy. There's a lot of money, legal money. Let me emphasize that legal, legitimate money going to be made in this business. It's another thing to look into. And in the African American community, we cannot afford to miss that one. But here's something else I want to talk to you about: part-time real estate and mortgage sales. It's a great way to keep up with the housing costs in your area. If you're in a gentrifying area and you get your real estate license, let's say you got a regular job and you got your real estate license, you're selling real estate on the weekends and the evenings. That's a great way to make a lot of money that'll help you keep up with the cost of living. And especially if you got a mortgage that's, hey, you're tight, get your real estate license, become a realtist, or get in the mortgage. You can make some good big commissions that'll help you to pay that mortgage down, and maybe even leverage it into buying an investment property. One of my agents, she works for the county of Alameda here in Oakland, and she holds her license with me, and she sells real estate part-time. She's been selling real estate with me for I think five or 6 years, and she's been making 30-40 grand a year extra on the side consistently. So it's a great way. It's a great way to develop additional income that can help you. Other things you can do: stock trading, online marketing, and other entrepreneurial endeavors. Lastly, let me say this: as a homeowner, you need to establish a trust and a will. Put your home in a trust and a will, so you will not, when you pass away, your property will not get lost in the sauce of probate. Probate is terrible. I'm not going to go into probate, but it's when the state comes in and takes over. When someone dies without a will or a trust, the state comes in, they take a big part of whatever the sales proceeds. A lot of times they force a sale. It's ugly. It's how a lot of people lose their property and their legacy in the neighborhood. And I've seen this over and over and over again. So please establish a trust, a will, and also get a life insurance policy. If you own a home, you really should have life insurance for when you pass away, that a lot of bills can be taken care of. And this is a legacy plan. So that's critical. That is very, very critical. Moving on, I'm gonna go a little bit faster now. Now, what can we do about this? We're talking about avoiding displacement, but now we're going to dive into building wealth for your family and your community. So check it out. If you own or are looking to move to another house, consider renting out your current home and then purchasing another. If you own a home, maybe you bought a 2-bedroom house, now you need a 3-bedroom house, consider this. Consider renting that 2-bedroom house out and then purchasing another home. It maybe is a little bit more difficult, but now what you're doing is you're developing a stream of rental income. You as a landlord can now offer housing to maybe someone that might have been displaced, and then generate a stream of income for yourself. Another thing, acquire an investment property, either residential income or commercial real estate in your hometown. let me just say this. When I say this to people think they need to have hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to acquire investment property. My first investment property I purchased was a 6-unit apartment building in Pueblo, Colorado. I bought it no money down using a master lease option strategy. Well, $1. I put $1 down to acquire that property. I didn't have a bunch of money. I didn't have no money at all. I had to borrow the dollar to make that deal happen, but we made it happen. So I want you to understand, and I just got done doing a seminar on the topic of creative financing strategies in multifamily properties and other investment properties. So you can buy property with very little money down, with no money down. You can partner with people who have money, but you got to make it a goal. You got to make an attempt to go after. And this will allow you to provide housing as well. When you're providing housing to people, you as a land, and if you're concerned about the community, you can help house people and prevent them from being kicked out of the area. So this is critical. And let me just say this as I'm moving on from this page. When you're getting into investment property or you're developing streams of income, it ain't easy, all right? You might see on a web an infomercial or somebody talking about, come on out here, real estate's easy, you're gonna make a ton of money. Well, it's not easy, but it's doable. You can do it, you can make money. Work with us, our organization, to help you to be able to do that. But I want you to know, it ain't peaches and cream, but it's possible, all right? Now, also, here's a few more things. Learn how to participate in development and redevelopment of properties in your city. Any interested party can learn this aspect of real estate and either lead a team or join development teams to build. Oftentimes, developments, especially developments that come about as city or county-owned land, they go through a public, bidding process. And it's usually teams of people. A lot of times developers will partner with nonprofit organizations. Sometimes they'll partner with community organizations to work together to get something done. And in the city of Oakland, that's happening a lot right now. Almost every development is being protested by community groups. So the developers that are getting developments done are finding that they have to work with these groups instead of avoiding them. That's the new model of development, and that's smart. And what does that do? That opens up doors for community groups, nonprofits, community members to actually be a part of these developments and have an ownership interest in these developments and be a part of the process versus simply just protesting about it. And I'm not saying don't protest. There's things that may need to be protested about, but be a part of it is what I'm saying, and put yourself in an equity position. Also, focus on entrepreneurship by starting and expanding local businesses that cater to the communities where they operate. While I'm at 24th and Telegraph, this area has become very expensive. It is a very gentrifying area, but in the 2-block radius, there are 7 Black businesses that are open for business in my neighborhood. We're all doing pretty well right now. And what we're finding out is a lot of people who move in here from other areas are wanting to support local businesses. That might not be the case in where you are, but that's the case where we are. And so the Black businesses that are here in downtown Oakland are actually doing pretty well by focusing on the neighborhoods and providing valuable services. So it's critical. As an entrepreneur, though, let me say one thing: avoid short-term business debt that may threaten your cash flow and operation and eventually kill your business. There are predatory lenders out there. I have gone through a 3-year ordeal with the second lender on my commercial property downtown Oakland, who was very predatory. And that really, it cost me a lot of money. I was able to work out a situation and circumstance to get them out of my hair and pay them off. But having gone through that experience and having them threaten my business, I say to you all, if you start a business, look for long-term. If you get financing, look for long-term business debt, not short-term, and look for the cheapest amount of money that you can find, the lowest rates that you can find. So sometimes you're in business, you got to do what you got to do, but always, always look for ways to get long-term debt, because short-term business debt can kill your business. And let me just tell you, There are predatory lenders that want to give you some money just so that they can take over your business, especially if your business is in a gentrifying area, because they know that business or that property is going to generate huge profits now and in the future. So be careful when you're starting a business or you're buying real estate or development, the type of financing that you get out there, and consult a realtist in order to help make sure not only are you able to acquire a property or start a business, but you can do it in a way that will be sustainable. So, and else, I want to say this about families. You make sure family owns some property and or companies, and that you support your family. This could be hard to work with your family, but it's critical. When you look at some of the other cultures that are very successful, the Asian culture, Hispanic culture, what thing they do, they have a high priority on family and family business and working with each other. So that's a model of success that can be done in the Black community. We've got some challenges that other people do not have, but we can work together and we can support our businesses, and we can work within our family. And here's the thing: if we don't, it's going to be very, very difficult to avoid displacement and build wealth. So it's critical that we do these things. Critical we work with our family and our communities. And now I'm going to talk about our neighbors. How do we help out our neighbors? Say maybe we start a business, maybe we own some property and we're doing well, but we're looking at our neighbors and they're losing their property, or they're getting kicked out, or their rent's going up, or someone's trying to take over their business. What do? We got to be concerned about this because like at NAREB, we're about democracy and housing. So we have to always lend a helping hand. So what I'm saying here is gentrification is not an easy thing to deal with because it's a result of economic trends, right? And economics are powerful. On top of economics, then there's always going to be some shady characters in general. But when there's money to be made, that's when shady characters come out of the woodworks, okay? So when gentrification is an economic trend at the end of the day, so these shady cats are going to come out. So you got to defend against that. And understand there's always ways to sustain and help others. There's always a way. It may not be the easy way. It may seem hopeless, but there's always a way for you to sustain and for you to help others. And it begins with education about what's going on. That's what we're doing today. It also is developing a sustainability plan. You got to have a plan to sustain, whether that's just as a homeowner, as a tenant, as a business owner. If you don't have a plan, other people who have a plan are going to dictate to you. So you got to develop a sustainability plan, and you got to teach, encourage, and educate your neighbors to do the same. It's not about you only. It's about your neighborhood, your community, and you've got to be a leader. I'm calling everybody on this webinar to be a leader. Be a leader in your neighborhood. Be a leader in your community. Be a leader of your organization. Step up. We need more leaders. The community needs us. Another thing we can do is attend educational meetings having to do with real estate and business industries that are expanding in your community. Invite neighbors. Be aware. Let's not be on the sidelines with this. And then, like for instance, there's a bike lane that is on my street, and I wish I would have been more active in the neighborhood process of this bike lane. I'm not a fan of the bike lane. I have nothing against bikers, but the way they did the bike lane, they could have did it different. And the way they did it ended up taking away 4 parking spaces on our block in and of itself, and has slowed down, driving traffic that affects the local businesses. Now we get so much foot traffic that it makes up for it, but I wasn't involved in that as I should have been. So the next issue that comes down when the city's proposing something, I will be there. I've learned my lesson. I'm sharing that with y'all so that you would be involved. Here's another key: team up with other like-minded people to discuss and build your sustainability plan. The key here: like-minded people. You can. I've got so many arguments with people from my community who are just hopelessly, defeated already. We're gonna get all ran up out of here. We can't live here. We gonna get up out of here. So that might not be the people you want to team up with. You want to team up with people who are like-minded and want to be solution-oriented and work with them and get involved. Get involved with us, with the realtors, what we're doing, because we're certainly making an impact and going to make a further impact as it relates to building Black wealth, particularly, but helping people in any urban areas, anybody who's underserved, to build wealth through home ownership and property ownership. So, and here's another thing: make it a point to support local businesses, even if it costs you more. Point here: circulate the dollar. In the African American community, we are the #1 consumers. Outside of Caucasians, we're the #1 consumers. We spend more consumer dollars than the Asians and the Hispanics. We're #1. But that consumer dollar recycles itself the least amount in our community. So if we can direct those dollars to local Black businesses, we make a significant impact, economic impact on our area. So let's do that. Let's circulate the dollar. Then start or join a community group that fits your cause. Take action steps and be a leader. There's a lot of different things you can do. There's a lot of different places you can find a home at, so to speak, where you can get involved and you can take some action steps. That's critical. And another part about this is I really think that we gotta take a solution-oriented philosophy to this. If we just simply are angry or upset, gentrification, we're not gonna sustain in a gentrifying area because of the economics. Money talks, man. And so this one, we got to get active. We got to be solutions oriented. We can't just be angry about this. And you can't also tell people where they can or can't live. You know, people have a right to live wherever they want to live in this country. A part of our organization, NARAB, we champion fair housing. The Rumford Act's all about fair housing. So you can't tell somebody who's, let's say, a wealthy individual from San Francisco who wants to move into the hood, you can't move here. And you can't protest that. And even if you did, you wouldn't be successful. But what we can do is take ownership of our situations, own some property, own a business, support a business, and get involved. All right. I want to make sure I drive that point home. Now, last slide, I want to say, what are we doing about it? What's our organization doing about it? And I'll take it from the local level. I'm in Oakland, so I'm a member of the Associated Real Property Brokers. That's our local board. A lot of you may be down in Southern California, so you might be a part of Consolidated Board of Realtors, or the San Diego Board of Realtors, or the Inland Empire Board of Realtors. Your local board is where you start. And so for me, it's ARPB. And my state board is CAREB. And our national board, our national organization is NARAB. So here's what we are doing about this in terms of helping people to avoid displacement and build wealth. First of all, we're providing providing housing and real estate investing education consistently. This is our first ever webinar. We're going to do 2 webinars a month going forward. One's going to be a community outreach educational event. The other one's going to be a member benefit professional educational event for the real estate professionals. But we also do a series of housing events and workshops in the community. We just had one here at my office last Saturday. There's about 25, 30 people here learning the home buying process. So we are heavy into real estate and housing education. We're also equipping our Realtist members. These are the professionals. These are the people on the fighting lines to achieve the goal of 2 million additional Black homeowners by 2021. And we're doing it through advocacy, activism, and action. And by having an army of Realtists that are sharp, not just, have a real estate license, but they are sharp. They're at the top 5 or 10% of their field in terms of what they know, in terms of what they do. That will help us to affect getting more folks into homes and avoiding displacement. So that we are equipping our membership through professional education, through networking, and through advocacy. And we'll talk a little bit about that in my call to action, because we have a big legislative day on Capitol Hill in Sacramento coming up. But we're also connecting consumers with financing and down payment assistance providers, as well as housing counselors such as NID, because we know that once you get a house, you need to fight hard to keep that house. And we know that in buying a home, that sometimes the biggest issue with buying a home is the down payment. So we have several down payment assistant providers that we're able to help connect the dots with potential homeowners, their lenders, in these down payment assistance programs. So we're also supporting youth education and mentorship programs by giving scholarships at the Associated Real Property Brokers. We give 5 scholarships every year, small scholarships, but scholarships to graduating seniors going into college. And also implementing programs such as FIRM. The Women's Council of NAREB has the FIRM program, which is a mentorship program designed to get people young people into the real estate business through mentorship. So that's a way we can help, people get involved into home ownership or property ownership, and also involved into the business of real estate as professionals through mentorship. And also, again, ongoing education through our affiliates, such as the United Developers Council, RIMBY, the Commercial Investment Division, and so forth. These are all affiliates of NAREB that are designed specifically to have educational programs and events for people who are interested. Like, for instance, RIMBY is for property management. The UDC is for developers, people interested in development. Commercial Investment Division is for anyone interested in investment property and commercial property. So you have places to plug into to learn how to be a professional in real estate and how to acquire real estate. And also, we advocate for fair housing practices in all our local markets. Again, I talked a little bit about the Rumford Act. NAREB was a big key in pushing the Rumford Act. Also, we support local and non and for-profit affordable housing developers. One thing we've done here in Oakland, there's an affordable housing developer, Urban Core, who came to us, our local board, and said, hey, we're seeking to develop a site downtown Oakland. This is a Black-led development team. And they came to us for support. We checked out their proposal. Our board unanimously supported them. We were there with them at City Council. And so when the City Council tried to bounce these guys out as developers and put someone else in, and not necessarily the city, but some of the neighborhood people, which was interesting because the face of the neighborhood has gentrified. The face of the neighborhood didn't look like the face of the developers. Interesting. But through advocacy, we were able to keep those developers, help to keep those developers in, and they got awarded the site. And so now we have our first Black-owned and what will be built, a Black-built housing project downtown Oakland on Lake Merritt that will be a blend of market rate housing and affordable housing. So these things are what we're doing as an organization. My call to action to you on this webinar is to get involved, take ownership. How do you do that? Join us. Join us. You don't have to be a real estate professional in order to be a realtist, in order to be a member of the Realtors Organization. And membership is very inexpensive. It ranges between $200 and $295 for the year. Local boards in other areas may range, price may range, but by supporting us, being involved with us, you are championing a cause. So when we go and we meet with the legislators in Sacramento, the more members we have, the more weight we carry. When we have an educational event in the community, the more people that show up, the more members we have, the more people we have inviting community members, the more people will be in those seats being educated. So join us in what we're doing. And when you join us, don't just join, get active. Join a committee and be a part of the solution. We have a variety of different committees that are set up to do specific things within the community, specific things within our professional organization. And such as, our legislative committee that's arranging our legislative day, which will be on May 17th and May 18th in Sacramento, Capitol Hill, where we're going to be talking to several legislators about issues that concern Black folks in housing and housing issues for the underserved in general. So you want to be there. You want to be a part of that. You want to be a part of this movement of 2 million additional Black homeowners in 5 years, because what that means to the economy is significant. So, so join us, be a member of NARAB, become a realtist, get involved in a committee, be a part of the solution. At the very least, figure out how you can be a sustainable member of your community, buy some real estate, encourage other people to buy real estate, do it in a responsible way, a right way, so that you can continue to own that real estate, and stay motivated, stay aware, stay focused, and take ownership. Don't let forces, economic forces, political forces, or anything else dictate to you. And the way you do that is you take ownership of yourself, your situation, and you put yourself into an ownership position. That's how we can do this. So that being said, that is the end of my presentation. I now would like to open it up for questions. And let me just say this. This is our very first time doing this. I'm not an expert. I'm not a technical expert, but please, if you have any questions, you can chat them in. I will see them and I can respond. And I'm very interested to get your guys' feedback from this. Also, and people are asking if they can get a copy of this webinar presentation. Absolutely. We're planning to email this out to everyone. After everyone who's joined this webinar, we'll get a copy of this presentation. And I believe we're going to have links to our website, which will have a calendar of events so that you can plug into and get involved. And the very next webinar we'll be doing will be March 30th. It's going to be conducted by our first Vice President, Linnell Holden, a very, very important and special person to me and our organization. And she's going to be talking about using video conferencing to build your business. And so what we're doing today, and I'm interested to hear your feedback, how it was. What we're doing today can be a very valuable way for you to build your real estate business or whatever kind of business that you have. Using the technology is critical. And that's something that we're behind on in the African-American community and in the inner cities. But check it out. It's something that we can quickly wrap our arms around. It's something that we can quickly get up to speed on. If Steve Peterson can do this webinar, anybody can do a webinar. I'm the least technically sound person in our group, in our organization. I am a millennial, but I just learned how to post pictures on Facebook last year. So if I can do this, y'all can do this. So just keep that in mind, and let's get active. Let's learn how to use technology in our businesses. Let's connect with our neighbors and our neighborhoods. Join this great organization, be a part of this, and let's get active. I'm excited, y'all, and I'm here on the firing lines of gentrification. And I've gone through some battles, here. That's why I'm confident. I'm sure that, we're not, as a Black community, we as underserved people. I'm born and raised in East Oakland. I grew up in some severe poverty situations, just like many of y'all and the people that we serve. And I'm more confident now than ever that we can avoid displacement and build wealth, especially if we link up with the Realtors organization and we focus on the 2 and 5 initiative. We focus on educating ourselves, educating our neighbors, getting people involved, and being part of the solution. I'm not saying don't be upset. I'm not saying don't protest. If there's something you feel like you need to protest, go on and do that. But keep a focus, a positive mental attitude, and a focus on taking ownership of you first in your life, then of putting yourself in an ownership situation. So thank you all. It's 1 o'clock now. I've seen a bunch of comments come across. I've got open I'm opening up for questions. I don't see any questions that have come across yet. I see some comments. Thank you for the comments. A lot of positive feedback. Thank you for the feedback. You all are going to get a copy of this webinar. We also plan to put this webinar on our YouTube station. So bear with us on that. It'll probably take a few days, but we will get this presentation immediately sent out. And this is what I would say. When we feel free to share this as much as you possibly can. This is not proprietary information. Share this with your friends. Repost it on Facebook. When we put it out on YouTube, be sure to send it to anybody who could use this information. Get the word out. Get the word out. This is not, like I said, this is not some proprietary information that we hold it towards. We try to get as many people to hear this information as possible. So please, 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 reshare, repost, email out, print it out, and, drop it in a neighborhood community center, something like that. We got to get our people motivated. We got our people, got to get folks, confident. It's very discouraging when you see a lot of people you've known for a long time moving out of your neighborhood. I was talking to somebody from Brooklyn. She went back to Brooklyn, and what used to be a famous barbecue spot was now a dog grooming place. These things happen. So instead of just getting upset about it, let's do something positive. Let's be a part of this. Let's be a part of this solution. So that being said, guys, it's 1:02. I don't see any particular questions. If you had a question that you put on here and I, for whatever reason, didn't see it, be sure to follow up with whoever invited you to this seminar and get the question out to me. We'll make sure to follow up with you on that. That being said, I'm going to end this webinar, and I want y'all all to have a great day. And remember, the realtors stand for democracy housing. And we've got this 2 and 5 initiative, 2 million additional Black homeowners in 5 years by 2021. We're going to accomplish that through advocacy, activism, and action. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic day.